Welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, where hunters new and old come to learn and find inspiration from stories of hunts gone by. Everyone is welcome to enjoy the outdoor way of life, and there is no better time to start than right now. So let's head into the great outdoors with your host, Dylan Ray.
All right, guys, welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast. As always, presented by our good friends over at ScentLock. ScentLock has, in my opinion, the best toolkit for bow hunters that they've built in the BE1 series with activated carbon technology for maximum odor absorption. Go check out our friends over at ScentLock if you have not yet. I've got a special guest on the phone ready to talk about a special hunt that they got to go on. I've got Mr. Shane Mowery, the Bone Maniac. Shane, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, Dylan. How you doing today?
Man, I am absolutely. We were just talking about this. I am incredibly good. We were talking about this storm in the Midwest that we're not used to getting. You know, we got a foot of snow over the weekend, and now it's 60 degrees on Monday. So that's just how it goes in the Midwest. But still fantastic. So.
Well, now these storms could change at any time. We kind of go through the same thing out here in northern Idaho. So, I'm just waiting for some snow. I'd like to have some. As we talked before coming on, I'd like to have some so I can go run some lions. But
yeah. Well, you know what sucks is that we waited all year long, and we were hunting like December, Christmas time, and it was 70 degrees. And we're like, well, what in the heck? How do you hunt late season deer when it's 70 degrees? And we never, ever really had that cold front come in during deer season. And now that it's closed, we get a big cold front, a lot of snow dumping. And it's like, well, that's how it works, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. It's if we could have that crystal ball, we can maybe figure.
Yeah, no kidding. I actually put out on a podcast in the middle of December, I said that. I said, if anybody knows how to hunt late season whitetails when it's 70 degrees, let me know, because I was struggling. They didn't move over to the food sources like they normally do, and just a rough go at it, man. But, we had a great season, as you did. Run me through, before we dive into your big hunt, run me through how your 2021 season went.
I think with a lot of the Western folks out here, we all struggled a little bit because we got hit with EHD and we got hit with CWD a lot out here in the West, and especially some of the premier counties that I like to hunt and units as well. I didn't get to do as much whitetail hunting as I wanted to, or mule deer in that aspect as far as archery season. But all in all, I think I still had a phenomenal season with how everything played out. We were able to fill the wife and I, Oregon elk tags. We were able to fill our bear tags as usual. They're abundant out here in Washington and in Idaho. Pronghorn, that was just incredible as far as those hunts were concerned. Because they're not susceptible to any of the EHD factors. We did have a 93-year history drought, so that played a big factor, and I think as well as a lot of the elk hunters struggled as far as that's concerned early on. So I switched gears. When I seen that things were going to be a struggle, I don't like wasting time. I know a lot of people are like, well, man, I spent 146 days or whatever it is in a tree stand. Good for you, but I don't have that much time. I like hunting, but I like killing better. So, I don't have a lot of time for that. But, mule deer had a great season in Colorado with that on some landowner vouchers and Utah and nothing huge. They were mainly just management bucks. But it was what to be expected. I did have some Canadian hunts that I was planning for that, obviously with the border control and getting the jab before you cross the border. I stay pretty firm on that, and I'll cancel those hunts until some better resources for so-called vaccinations come out before I head over there.
You know, you said that about switching gears, and some guys just kind of hold to their guns. And you know, there's something to be said about the guy who, you know, like you said, hunts 127 days for one deer and never gives up. But there's also something to be said about those guys, and we all know them. We're like, dude, you went out 2 times all year and you shot a booner. Well, it's because they go out on the good days. You know, they don't. If it's 80 degrees with a wrong wind, they just don't go hunt. And so, you know, I think there's something to commemorate about both of those people. You know, the guy who hangs in there and hunts no matter what, and then the guy who, hey, if it doesn't look optimal in Kansas, you know, I'm going to head to Idaho and go chase elk, or I'm going to head, you know, somewhere else and wait until it is optimal to chase this deer in Kansas or Oklahoma or whatever. And that's when, you know, it takes self-control. But also, you know, I heard, I don't know if it was Mark or Terry Jury who was talking about it, but, you know, they talked about how essentially when you pull out and you don't just go in there just to be hunting, you're setting yourself up for a better chance to kill that 340 elk or that, you know, 180 whitetail or whatever it is you're chasing that you really had your eyes set on. You're setting yourself up better in the long run by not just going in there to hunt just to hunt.
Oh, 100%. And, you know, I enjoyed my times in the woods, but when I enjoy those times, it's usually with the family or kids or something like that. But when I have a job to do, and that's how I look at it, is it's a job. So I want to go in and take care of business and get what I need, because I don't necessarily like just traipsing around just to be traipsing around. So if I see something's not going to be working, I'll know in the first 2 days, and we'll move on to something else. And I think that's one of the beauties of being in the West, is there's so many species that we can hunt, and the seasons coincide with one another. For the most part, we can always change up, you know, as far as that concerned. So, and you know, as far as the whitetail hunting, I mean, I mean, if you're close in proximity of you know, multiple states, guys can pull that off, because I mean, you know, you're either in the Corn Belt or you know, Texas. I think it doesn't matter what time of the year it is, you know, down there.
Yeah.
You know, it's money. You know, they're just so abundant down there, kind of like Alabama. So
Texas is an incredible place, man. It really is. Not only are deer so rich, but it's such a game-rich environment. You can go to Texas and hunt anything, and you know, I know some people, they're like, well, I don't want to hunt high fences, and I understand that. But Texas has so many things that are completely 100% free range that you can't hunt anywhere else. Axis deer and black buck antelope and aoudad and I mean, just an insane amount of different animals to go and hunt. Texas is just an incredible place altogether.
Oh, 100%. You know, and you just mentioned a couple of those, and you can see one on the back. I mean, you got black buck, and I was taking down in Texas, and the aoudad, which was on the Franklin Range, the Davis Mountain Range that flows right across from Van Horn down into, I can't even pronounce some of those Mexican, it starts with a CH, something like that. Well, anyway, you know, down in Mexico. So the whole mountain range, I mean, it's just, everything just funnels up through those canyons. And you're, like you say, they say technically low fence or how fence or whatever, but so is everything in New Zealand, and you know, for red stag, and I mean, for the most part, you're sectioned off into Africa too. I mean, if you go down and you try to spot and stalk a black buck in Texas in a low fence area, you have your hands full. I can tell you that right now, because I've done it.
Well, and a lot of people don't understand. Like, we were hunting in a quote unquote high fence last year, and somebody on social media, a keyboard warrior, screamed out high fence, and I was like, yeah, that's right. It was a high fence, and I said it was 110,000 acre high fence. There's deer in there that have never seen a fence. There's deer in there that I mean have been miles from fences. And so that it's just a complete different ball game. I mean, yeah, if you're hunting a 300-acre high fence, in Missouri, that's completely different than a 110,000-acre high fence, when the fence really wasn't even created for the deer. The property is just in a fence.
Sure.
And there's deer that will never see a fence in their lifetime inside of that place. And I'm like, those guys unless you experience it, you don't understand it. You know what I mean?
Well, you have that type of I don't know if you want to use the word propaganda or whatever on social media. You know, it's benign. Let's just say it right now.
Yeah.
It's benign. Social media is benign, and it can be, if it's used for the correct purposes, it's great. But in most cases, like you're always going to have that type of negativity come out,
Right.
and it shouldn't be that way as far as hunters are concerned.
Oh my gosh, man! Like, you'll get me on a social media rant, but speaking of social media, I did need to note, my social media was completely, fully, and 100% hacked. So I had to start new accounts. So guys, if you're listening, and you followed me in the past, head over to Instagram. My new name on Instagram is Typical, TYPICAL, Typical Sportsman, on Instagram. So go and find my new pages and follow me over there. I'll keep doing all of the field note videos on there. Just had to start a new account. So the old keyboard warriors took me down. I don't know how else to say it. And so they got me in a way that Facebook basically said, sorry, you have went too far. There's no return. So I didn't even get to see what was posted. I was told it was very, 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 very inappropriate. I didn't even get to see it at the time before Facebook completely shut me down. So if you were following me on social media, go find me at Typical Sportsman, and I'll keep putting out all the same content there. Before we move on, I do need to give a quick thank you to our friends over at Boning. Me and Shane both share a deep love for Boning, not only all of their arrow building components, but I absolutely am in love with their Fredbear branded products, their Fredbear camo wraps, their Fredbear flannel wraps. They have everything you need to build your arrows, and they have all of the components you need to build your arrows. So go check out our friends over at Boning. Shane, what's your favorite vein there from Boning?
Oh man, I tell you, well, it's on the compound side of things. I mean, I've always been using the Blazer vein, since what? Maybe the late 90s. So I've actually talked to DJ several times. I'm like, man, I need a good feather. But they have a ton of veins as far as that's concerned. That everybody uses, but I'm real habitual about, if it's not broke, I don't fix it.
Absolutely.
I've always stayed with them. So we'll keep going that way.
I have switched. I guess it was 2 years ago. I switched to running a 4-fletch with a heat vein, and I have really enjoyed that, especially if you're shooting a bigger fixed blade broadhead.
It stabilizes
can't
better.
wait. Yeah, can't wait to talk to you about the new Bear broadheads. But if you're shooting a bigger fixed blade broadhead, I really love that heat vein. As a very low profile, and it just stabilizes your arrow phenomenal. So if you haven't checked out Boning's products, go check them out, boning.com. Everybody's familiar with the Blazer, but Boning has so many more products. If a Blazer vein is not your thing, they have so many more products. And that new, have you played with the pocket quiver at all?
I do, and I use it quite a bit. And actually, the kids love it more than anything. And that's the thing. Was bringing out the new products. The new Cauldron Fletcher is like that's next level right there. And I think everyone should give that thing a try.
Absolutely.
I have all the old stuff, from Joe Jan all the way up, and even and I still like my single Fletchers. I still do. Just if I want to, do, maybe I don't want to do a 1 or 2%. They're still able. You're still able to play with things for the most part on those. And with the Cauldron,
Right.
you can do pretty much the same thing, but in a faster amount of time. And, in today's world, who doesn't want now?
Yeah, no, I got to play with it a little bit at ATA, and I really was impressed with that Fletcher, with that jig, and that's just what it echoes what I've always said of, even if you're not a fan of boning vanes, even if you run an AAE or something. Boning has all of the accessories to build your arrows out, and so boning really is a one-stop shop for all things arrow components and arrow building, so go check them out. Shane, let's talk about it, man. You recently went on a hunt that for however long you've wanted to go on, and seems as though it lived up to your expectations. Walk me through your hunt, man.
Well, I'll walk you through as much as I want to put out there, because this is actually going to be on the new short film series on the Pursuit channel. So I don't want to give away everything, but as you can see in the background right there, that was a bison that I was able to get in South Dakota, and I've gotten this was my third one. So this was something entirely different that I wanted to do. That was what you want to say authentic as far as the native herd, and this herd on the Grovant tribe in Montana. You can't get any more true from that without drawing the tag, as being able to be invited in to hunt with the tribe, and do things the way, and hunt pretty much the way it was back in the day. So after a lot of research and things like this, and this was over years of me wanting to get this done, and you can't get any more iconic than the American bison, and I wanted to do it with the trad bow. So the other ones I shot one with the muzzleloader and one with the compound, and all of them, what I thought was fairly easy as far as a spot and stock animal. This one was this was different. This was different. As far as that's concerned, when you're spotting an animal that, I mean, the natives on the Grovant tribe, I mean, they still hunt them today. I mean, they'll kill them for the elders. They hunt them. They'll bring in outside sources. I mean, it's really, for the most part, it's a source of income for them. From Fort Belknap and Fort Peck and that whole band. All collectively, there's 650,000 acres there that they are free to roam on. And I'm telling you right now, they know what a hunter is. they definitely know what a hunter is, and their eyesight is phenomenal. And their sense of smell, they correlate that as, hey, we've been hunted for thousands of years. We know what that smell is. So, and being able to stock one on the plains is it's a lot of belly crawling. It's getting jabbed in the knees by a bunch of nasty Medusa heads and everything else. So, and being able to withstand 50 and 60 mile an hour wind gust, and it was 35 below zero for a couple of days. So it was pretty brutal. As far as that, but to start it off is like where this all came about is I wanted to take that with the trad bow, and I wanted it to be within the native band of bison. So, and not to be confused with buffalo either. So, without taking or getting and I've put in for years, the East and West Yellowstone tags, whether it be, Wyoming or Montana, it's just to no avail. And it's like with anything, if you have anything anymore, it's like it almost seems like point creep is there, and I'm sure a lot of people's been reading up on that lately. It's just, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think for the most part, it could be, if you look at it different ways, it's a good thing, because you have more hunters, right? So there's more people out there hunting. But it's bad if you're in your mid 40s and you want to be able to take these animals before you.
Yeah. Now, when I saw the pictures and the video of the weather condition, my first initial thought was like, bro, that sucks. But then my second initial thought was like, you know what, good for him. Because if you go on a hunt like that, like, you want to experience it for all it's worth.
Mhm.
And I just thought, like, you see these guys, and I was talking to a guy a while back at the Pope and Young convention, and he had finally got to go on a muskox hunt. He'd always wanted to hunt muskox, and he said, when we got there, the weather was just beautiful, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted my beard to freeze over. I wanted, I wanted to experience that, like the full blown like experience. And so I was, my second thought was like, good for Shane, because he got that full 100% authentic experience, and that's what you want, in my opinion. If that's if that's the hunt you're going on, like, I was stoked that you got to experience it in that way. And maybe you look at it different, but I was like, man, good for him.
Oh, no, 100%. And this goes all the way back to, where this all started, is doing the research. And I wanted to hunt this animal where it was right in the bison belt. And I was very close to where Chief Joseph surrendered. So that's where I took that. That's where he died. We were very that proximity. So you can't get much more history involved with this hunt as far as documenting it out. And I want people to hear this because I want them to be able to, get that full experience as I did. And I think with what we've filmed, from what we've talked to with the elders at the Gros tribe, and and with Brad Edwards, which is how I got into the Gros tribe with Bronx Big Thunder. It's not just something that, hey, come on over, we got a tag for you. This is
right.
This is something that's the real deal. There was a process, and it took a long time to get into that. So being able to hunt this animal just like the natives did. Because if they were hungry, they had to go out there in that kind of weather too and kill it. And they had, even though I still had some modernized equipment. With a recurve, a 70-pounder, Super Kodiak, and I actually, the first arrow that struck him was with the old 1964 Baird Razor. So that's what I use. And the only reason that I got that is because we'll get into the new heads, because I didn't have those yet. But
now I saw you put out a tip. You put out a tip on sharpening the broadheads. Yeah. Walk me through that tip on sharpening those broadheads.
Okay, sure. Actually, we'll have one here, because we have right here is actually, well, it's still got the bison blood on it, and this is actually the first one that hit him. So as you could tell, I just take a flat file, and basically, with that, as you can see that tip is you basically just want to, score that blade. And I usually use a magic marker and go across that, just so you know where you're filing. You can hold the angle. So if you're only hitting, that magic marker, you're only hitting a certain portion of that blade when you go across, you're quickly to identify that you're at the wrong angle, if you follow what I'm saying. Well, I should hold that up there a little bit. But if you put that black marker on there that you can see, and then you use that flat file and you go into that, you'll get the correct angle on that. The same way. And one thing that I do like, and I think most people will agree too, is like the old razor head definitely came to a point, and I kind of just put a chisel point onto those, and that's just it keeps everything, that point is so sharp and pointy at the front. If you put a chisel point on it, you have more meat on the table, so to speak, in front, that it won't bend or collapse on you. So and keep in mind that it's still got a little burr on it. These things are really easy to sharpen. They really are. I think a lot of people think, oh man, I was using a diamond stone and this and that. Like, flat file works the best, and burr is your friend. A lot of times people think, well, I need it razor sharp, but it can still be razor sharp but have a burr on it, because I've noticed a lot of times that, and I'm no biologist, but I do have common sense. But, it's like one of those things, like if that broadhead is so sharp, it could be pushing those veins out of the way as it's entering the body. So if you have something that's got a little burr on
Right.
it, I'm telling you right now, I've never seen so many blood trails that on a two-bladed broadhead with a burr on it versus a really, surgical steel type sharp.
Razor sharp. Yeah.
I think you'll get that. And I had, up until this part, right here, and we'll see it on film, but the first shot was at 49 yards. That was the closest I could stock that animal. I'll give you that much. So it was no joke. So at 49 yards, 568 grains.
49 yards.
Well, it's a big target.
God.
It was a big target, Dylan.
Well, I've tried to shoot at 50 yards, and I don't think I can hit even a big target at 50 yards.
Well, what's your point of aim? If your point of aim is 30 yards, or is it?
My point on is 34 yards.
34 yards.
So at 50, you're holding at the top of the back on a bison probably.
Let me give you a little tip. And I know maybe Herb or some of the other guys that gave you that, but I use my knuckles as a range.
Really?
So I'll use my knuckles to that. My point on is 40 yards. So, and I had to do a little calculating there also. But also after 6 stalks, I knew that 49 yards, and he was laying down on it. And then when he rose, that's when I shot. But that was the closest I could get on these animals. And that's belly crawn. And I'm not scratching my ears or anything like that, but when I have the elders there that's watching on this and they're impressed with the techniques that I was using, I felt good. I felt good about it, and I felt very humbled about the whole process because they're used to guys coming in and shooting them with a gun. They're not used to seeing things old school.
No, I by no means was questioning your shot. I'm of the opinion, people always ask, what's a ethical distance? Well, to answer that question is, how far can you shoot?
Exactly. Exactly.
I still suck with a recurve, so for me that's 24 yards and in is what I feel comfortable shooting an animal at. But I always tell people, and Clay Hayes said it really well, if you get at a distance to an animal and you know for a fact you can shoot and kill that animal, shoot it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if how far it is. Nobody else can answer the question of how far is ethical other than you.
100%.
I've definitely shot at animals with my compound, and people are like, "Oh, it's too far," and I'm like, "Well, I killed it. Who cares what you think?"
Wow. Exactly.
Speaking of the Sharpie tip, I actually saw another Sharpie tip that I would like to share. If you're squaring your arrows, of course, carbon is black, so get a silver marker, and just put Sharpie around the end of your arrow, and then as you're squaring off your arrows, you can see if there's still any silver Sharpie that your arrow's not square. I saw somebody put that tip out and thought that was pretty beneficial. Mm-hmm. Speaking of the new heads, have you shot them now? Have you got them yet?
John keeps telling me I'm going to have them here in the middle of this month. And I would have loved to have had those heads on this hunt. And to go back, it took me 3 shots. Three shots on this animal, and they were all money shots.
Well placed. Yeah.
The first shot, it was right in the heart. It was the first shot. And I was actually, I'm not going to take credit for that heart shot because I was actually aiming for lungs, but, and I think that's why, they'll run. They're tough animals. And as you'll see, without giving too much away, it took about another 2,000 yards before I was able to get another arrow in him, after that. So, and then I put the last one in just to get him out of there quick. And, the last big personality to hunt with these folks, on the Gravon tribe was Ted Nugent, and he was using the compound. And I'm not throwing anything out there, Ted, but I was like, they said 13 arrows with a compound. So I felt real good about 3 arrows with the recurve. So all the traditional guys, I think, statement out there for us.
You know, that. Well, first off, Ted has the quiver to do it. He had 17 arrows in the quiver.
He likes to shoot. I can't say that I don't like to shoot either.
I've learned that though, and this was only my first year hunting with a recurve. I'm by no means trying to say that I've become efficient with it or that I'm good with it. But
you
I found
killed
myself
an animal
in two
with
hunting.
it?
I did, but I found myself in 2 hunting situations this year. One, I was like 13 yards from a deer that I was going to shoot, and I had my compound. I got to full draw, and I literally thought to myself in that moment, I was like, I would feel more comfortable right now if I had my recurve. And that if you would have told me I would have thought that 8 months ago, I would have thought you were insane. Like, I wouldn't have ever believed you. But there's just that level of, like, I don't want to say ease of use because it's not easy to use, but there's that level of, like, I don't know, you practice so much with it, and there's that level of confidence and that level of, like, if you're going to shoot at an animal with a recurve, like, you're only shooting if you know for a fact you can kill that animal. Mm-hmm. And another situation, I had my compound, and a nice buck comes in, and the buck was at 7 yards. And I posted a video of the deer, and everybody's like, why didn't you shoot it? Why didn't you shoot it? And if I would have had my recurve, I would have shot that deer in an instant. Like, I would have been over the moon ecstatic to shoot that with a recurve. But I didn't because I had my compound. And I'm like, well, it's just not, I don't know, it's not there for me for a compound. And so I've really come to experience over this year that, man, a recurve, although it might be more difficult, it's not a hindrance. You're not limiting yourself. You're sure you have to get a bit closer, and it's more difficult to execute a shot. But I don't like to look at it as a a hindrance on my hunt because, like you said, it's really not. I mean, if you can make the shot, it's going to kill the animal just as the compound does. You mentioned that I shot a buck in Missouri with it, and got a complete pass through. Arrow dug in the ground on the other side. The deer went 40 yards and was dead. And in that moment, I was like, "There's nothing better about a compound when it comes to killing the animal. It's harder to hunt with a recurve, but there's nothing better about the compound." And so, yeah, I mean, I just encourage people to try it because it does really. I mean, it opens your mind an incredible amount to, like, what it means to get closer to that animal. Because if you would have had your compound, the first stalk you got 60 yards, you shoot and you're done.
Yeah, I would have been over with on the first stalk. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it forces you to really enjoy that hunt more with a recurve.
Oh, 100%. And I probably wouldn't come out with a Boone and Crockett animal either. So I know I wouldn't.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Because that was just luck of the draw, as far as that was happening. My whole process was going over to take a representative of the species. So, but yes, just to answer your question on that, it's it definitely, I think it makes you a more skilled hunter as far as being able to put yourself in a position that normally you would not have put yourself in with a short range firearm or with a bow, or a crossbow. So, you'll definitely, I think, using the traditional side of equipment, you'll definitely hone in on some of your skills that you probably didn't even know you had.
Yeah, and I the last hunt of the year this year had a little bit of a cold front move in, and I was like, I just want to go sit and see what happens. I'd already filled my buck tag, so I was really just hoping a doe would stroll in, and I took my recurve, and a doe came in, and she was at 24 yards, and I drew back on her, and then she turned a little bit, so I let down, and then she got to 13, but she was, and I drew back on this deer like 3 times, and never could get a shot on her. I'd get to full draw, and she would jump out to 40, and then, she'd walk in later again, and she would turn at full, and so I was telling somebody this story, and they're like, "Oh, dude, if you would have had your compound, you would have pinwheeled her and been done," and I'm like, but that's not the point. Like, I enjoyed that hunt so much. of like, oh, here she comes, drawing back. Oh, I couldn't get it. That made that hunt what it was, because we fall into this bad habit, and people will tell me that, oh, you've lost the joy of hunting, and oh, you don't care, and that's not the point. But we've lost the joy of hunting when a doe strolls in at 60 yards and we pin her with our compound and we're done, and we're like, well, yep, filled the tag. And you're some guys will say, oh, I get fired up about every deer. I understand that, like to an extent, but we've lost that joy and that overexcitement of harvesting an animal, and getting a recurve in your hands gives you that back. It does, and so I just encourage everyone to give it a shot.
Well, yeah, and I think it doesn't matter. I'll hunt with anything. It doesn't. I rifle hunt, crossbow, trad, compound. I think also is like you have to have the mindset of, okay, what is my purpose? Do I want to tag out, or do I want to experience the hunt, or whatever? So I always look at that point, and if I have a tag in my mind, I'm coming to do a job, and that's to take home the meat, So
yeah,
and that's what I do, and we, and a lot of people, and I get the question is like, well, you kill a lot of animals every year. I do, but also we do a lot down here with the local food bank at the church, and I tell you, and don't get confused here. No, I don't say I'm some saint, because I'm not. But we give a lot of meat to the food bank, and we support a lot of families in the community as far as that. And I think this helps because not everybody's a hunter. But what they will do is they'll enjoy some good wild game, and the local processor down here, we all work together on putting things on people's and families' dinner table that typically they would not have, and especially the way grocery prices and everything's been right now. I'm just happy that I'm in a position that I'm able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move on, I have the newest sponsor of the show, Nick's Knife Works. He is a friend of mine out of Wichita, and he makes some of the prettiest knives you've ever seen, but also the most just well-built and designed knives. Now, here's my problem, and Shane, I know I'm talking to a guy that can get on board with this. I love cheap knives. I love knives where I don't have to worry about breaking or bending the blade, and especially all these knives with replaceable blades, and you're skinning an animal, take one out, throw a new one in. But there's something to be said about a well-built, hand-forged Damascus knife in your backpack that you know is going to hold that blade. You know the blade will hold up, and so I'm a big proponent of having a good quality knife. Whether it be a skinning knife in your backpack, or a everyday used for everything on your bino harness, whatever it might be, finding you a good hand-forged, purpose-built knife. So go check out Nick's Knife Works on social media, on Instagram, because he makes some incredible, incredible knives. And I know I'm talking to a guy that can get on board. You don't go hunt bison with a trad bow and old bear razor heads, and you don't like a good hand-forged knife.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. It's whatever I have in my. I'm not married to any knife company, and I have a slew of them that's around here. So, and I think, there's something to be said with that. And there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys out there that's making some really good blades right now.
Yeah,
it's great.
And again, don't get me wrong. I love an outdoor edge to keep in my backpack. And, if something happens, you can throw a new blade on it. I love them. But I also, I'm a sucker for some just not old, but from some hand-forged pieces of art in a knife. And having one of those with me at all times to know that no matter what, I've got a well-built knife that's going to stay sharp no matter what.
Right. Especially if you know how to put an edge on.
Now, Shane, yeah, absolutely. Which is something, my dad growing up, my dad, his thing was sitting down to watch TV at night and sharpening knives. So while we're watching TV, all you hear is whoosh, 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 whoosh. And, he's one of those guys, well, son, a man's only as good as his knife is sharp, And just all the time, always sharpening knives. And I never understood, like, I was always like, Dad, that's got to be the most boring thing in the world. But now I love it. Now I absolutely have fallen in love with getting my broadheads and my knives just as sharp as possible. I love it. And so, Shane, I thought about when I saw the pictures and the videos of that hunt, and I don't mean to like toot your horn or make your head big or anything, but Bear Archery's slogan is the Fred Bear Way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that hunt, and when I heard about where it took place, and when I heard about, shooting it with a recurve and what the Bear Razor had, I was like, that's the Fred Bear Way. Like, he did it the Fred Bear Way.
I did that one actually for Fred. That was something
he wasn't able. Did that ever cross your mind?
I did, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to do it, because that was something that Fred never was able to achieve. And so that one, I mean, that's where all this will come into place with the whole, short films that I'm putting out on the Pursuit. It's all has something to do with Western hunting, and a lot of tributes to just American history and iconic America. And that's just my way of, I think everybody gets the wrong idea of compassion for hunters or of hunters. So, regardless of what people think of, like, oh, you're just a killer. Yeah. But, it's also, there's another side that I want people to see also. And that was the whole reason why we're putting these shows, these short films out on the Pursuit channel. And it did cross my mind. It crossed my mind even before I went into the hunt. So there's a lot of history that on both sides of the fence that goes into these up and coming short films that I'll be putting out there on the Pursuit.
Yeah, and again, and I'm not meaning to gloat about you at all, but when I saw that, I was like, that truly is the Fred Bear Way. And every once in a while, you see a post or you see a picture, you see a hunt, you see a video, you see something, and you're like, you made Papa Bear proud. And and I really did think that, Shane. And so,
thanks.
I thought that you executed it very well. I thought that you represented the hunt very well. And I'm really glad that the weather cooperated to give that full, like, that super experience. 'Cause that's not something you want to, that's not something you want to see, is like, man, I've been wanting to go on this hunt for a long time, and then you get there and it's like 45 degrees and beautiful, and there has to be that struggle for there to be the appreciation. And so when I saw this unfold, I was like, man, kudos to Shane. He did it.
This was an extremely tough hunt. Out of all the hunts, and I've not always had to tag, but I've been on the hunt, and I felt like, and I've either coaching along, help guiding, or whatever. But I've been on everything except for the muskox. So, you can't exactly say polar bear. But other than those, this was this was the most difficult hunt that I've ever put myself in, as far as hunts for hunt is concerned. So, given the weather conditions, giving the terrain, and the animal itself, it was a phenomenal, and I took a magnificent animal that I had pretty much. I didn't know that, I don't want to give anything out that I shouldn't, but it's like, because we still have like 42 days left of dry time, but it should be I'll say this because it's on Bear podcast, but it'll definitely be the biggest ever taken with a recurve. We'll say that much. It's definitely Boone and Crockett stature. We know that just by rough scoring it. So we got everything in line for Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young. I got the scorer on board, ready to do everything. So I got a ton of animals that are of that stature, but this has never been something that was ever important to me, of having a record book entry, because I have a ton of them. But this one's a little special for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because of how it unfolded, and where I'm at with everything, as far as my hunting career and stuff like that. So,
well, and people always say, I don't want the recognition, I don't need the recognition. Well, it's not always about you.
Yeah.
That bison deserves to be in a book amongst its peers.
He's a giant.
Yeah, and he's a monarch, man. And I always I asked one guy this. He said, "Dude, I don't need to be in the book. My name doesn't need to be in the book." I said, "Well, you know Brandon Waddell from Mountain Archery Fest. He just puts his initials in the book. He's like, you're right, my name is not in the book, but that animal that I harvested sure as heck deserves to be in a book, and for his legacy to be remembered." And me and Brandon were sitting there talking to this guy, and I said, "You play golf, buddy?" And he said, "Yeah." "Oh yeah, I love golf." And I said, "So what if you go to a tournament, and you win this tournament, and it's a world class tournament, and I don't know the golf tournament, whatever, but it's one of those PGA Tour like big tournaments, and you get done and you win, and they're like, oh man, your name actually just doesn't deserve to be up there." And he was like, "Well, yeah, I'd be furious." And I'm like, "Well, that's what you're telling the deer or the bison or the elk. Your name doesn't deserve to be in a book with your peers." And so, it's not always about you putting your animal in the book, but that animal, and your bison especially, deserves that recognition, deserves to be put in a record book amongst its peers, to be remembered. And it's cool to have a trophy on your wall, but it's another thing to memorialize that animal for the rest of history by putting it in a book amongst its peers, and going back and being able to see that bison was number 2 or number 3 or number 1 or whatever it is in the world ever. And it's to commemorate that the life of that animal.
Oh, 100%. And I agree with that. Without a doubt. As far as the animal where it stays, and I think a lot of people, including myself, I'm like, I don't need that recognition, or I don't need it in there. But if you look at it that way, it definitely needs to be.
Yeah, especially a bison like that, man. I wanted to ask you got the Kodiak Hunter, correct?
I do.
Man, tell me your thoughts on that bow.
I like it. I'm still getting used to. I'm not real partial on the grip. I love how my SK feels. As far as that's concerned, I shoot it well. But man, I'm just so partial to the SK that it's there. I mean, I killed a couple pheasants with it. That's the only thing.
Nice.
So, but I haven't taken on any hunts this year as far as big game is concerned. That may change, as time goes on here, and upcoming hunts. So that's what I have taken. If we ever get any snow to speak of, that's what I have in the books to take when I head down to Utah, here in Idaho, when we start chasing the heart of lions, which I'm hoping that comes up, because usually right around when breeding season for coyotes, we started getting hammered with snow, and it's time to really get out and start letting the hounds run. So that's what I have to use, for this next coming hunt. So just because it's a little more what do you say, agile to carry around than that 70-pounder. So
yeah, I get so many questions still about the Mag Riser. That's where 90% of my content was. Everybody knew I was shooting it, and so I get so many messages and emails about the Mag Riser, and I don't, I'm not well versed enough on recurves to know why or what's causing it. But all I can tell you is that I shoot the I shoot the Kodiak Hunter way better than I shot the Mag Riser, and it's a joy to shoot. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just a joy to shoot. And I've really fallen in love with that bow, so I was curious to hear your thoughts on it. And, I don't know if it is the grip, because the grip I actually took off the rubber grip on my Mag Riser, so it's that really thin, flat metal grip. And so I don't know if the grip on the Kodiak Hunter, my hand just likes a little better, and I shoot it a little better. But straight out of the box, I shot that bow just a bit better than I shot my my mag riser, and so I was just curious to hear your thoughts on it.
The mag riser is the least of my favorite. I mean, it's too skinny, for mine, and I noticed that a lot of folks will do a lot of taping. It's too skinny for me. I mean, I still shoot it okay, but it's not something that I'll bring around all the time if I'm going on a real serious hunt or something like that. But I know on the B riser, or the 50th anniversary one, that one I shoot really well. I like that. With the number 1 and 2 limbs, that one I really like. And that's pretty much resembles the SK as far as risers are concerned.
Yeah. What do you got coming up for 2022? What's your big hunts for this year?
We're still playing out a lot of things on that, but I have a couple bull elk tags that definitely I'm going to try to get back in the groove. We have one that's going to be over, and this one will be on the pursuit also. It's of history value as well, so it's going to take place on the Oregon Trail over in Oregon. So I was able to get one of those on the Columbia Basin. It's pretty much where everything unfolded as far as the Oregon Trail. I have a Columbia blacktail hunt inline in the works also. So these are obviously with the SK as well. Or if I really fall in love with that Kodiak hunter, I may use one of them. I don't know yet. So regardless, it doesn't really matter which one I use. They all shoot really well. I mean, I won't complain on how any of them made or shoots or anything like that. They shoot really well. And I think anything that's approved by Neil is primo. So there's no problem as far as that. It's whatever we get comfortable with. And I mean, anybody can get comfortable with anything, if they put it in their hands long enough. So just growing up shooting the DSK side models, I think that's just, it's just the memory of how it's to be held. So we have that. And basically the same thing that I have out here in the PNW as far as Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. I'm not sure if I'm going to do any whitetails yet again this year. Tail on the side it's it's completely off subject of the bison, but things are getting out of control as far as expense wise, and one of the reasons I wanted to focus more, that's on the whitetail side of things, but I wanted to focus more on the PNW and the Western hunts is like, it seems like every week we're getting constantly attacked by whether they're banning the cameras or you can't use lighted nocks, or, I'm just thinking of things that's been a repetition here, or they're shutting down spring bear season. So the more involvement I think with people are giving voices out there and shutting down all this political agenda, I think that's going to help most is being able to hunt more and into my home range versus going somewhere else. So that's the key components that I want to focus on. I do have a ton of hunts. I do have an ibex hunt that I put in for New Mexico and Arizona. I got a bunch of I got enough points in a lot of areas to get something, and I'm due for some of those. So we're real hopeful for some of those hunts to come up. But I'm hoping to get back down to Texas to do an axis hunt, because that's one type of meat that we don't give away at the food bank.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, and the wife's always like, when are you heading back down to shoot an axis? So, we may do something like that. So, but the core of everything as far as my tags, which I think I have 21 total without anything that I've put in draw for, and that's included turkeys also. But we'll stick with those and adding on, like I say, the Colombian blacktail for that. So there's a couple things that I'm hopeful for maybe come up for Alaska, but we do have 2023 spring that we are planning to head over for Africa. That we'll spend a month over there. So that's my plan.
That'd be awesome.
So yeah, well, I'm taking the whole family. If everything plans out to where nobody needs, God willing, and all this craziness in the world, kind of subsides and we're able to get over safely and I'm able to take the kids because I said whenever I do go to Africa, it's going to be when I can take the whole family and have their experience. So the kids are getting to the age where, I want them to be able to experience because I don't know if I'll go back or
Yeah, that's a trip, man. You said something. Yeah, I'm actually headed to Texas in June for my first axis hunt, and I'm incredibly excited, man. Hunting with our friends at Texas Hunting Resources there, and I couldn't be more excited, man, to go down and try to do it with my recurve. But I hear, like you said, man, going back to Texas, the outfitter, I was really excited to do this with a recurve, and he's like, you better be ready to shoot, like, 30, 32, 33 yards. And so that's what I've been practicing out to. And my confidence just isn't there yet.
Yeah, it'll get there.
I'm sure hoping. But maybe you can help me on this. They're not as string shy as a whitetail, correct?
No, they don't like to jump. Okay, they don't like to jump at all. You'll find them not jumping the string at all. That I've noticed on. I mean, I've killed several of them, but if you put it on him, chances are that's where it's going to hit.
Well, that makes me feel better, because you think, man, a whitetail, like you get a whitetail at 32 yards, like you've got to be perfect.
Yeah, he's got to be pretty calm,
perfect.
Huh?
Yeah. So, well, Shane, that I am I like to ask for tips and tricks that you've learned over the years. What's one piece of advice that you would give the hunter and myself to take and make me a better hunter with?
Man, I mean, I think everybody's different as far as style and as far as hunting. I mean, I guess I could counter that and ask, what piece are you looking for? Are you looking for traditional? Looking for comp?
Well, let's actually go. You just experienced a hunt that most people will never hunt that cold of weather. Most people will never hunt 35 below. So walk me through like a layering tip or a tip to stay warm or dry. Because that those kind of conditions most people will never see. How'd you get through that?
Well, I was actually, I'm partnered with, Huntworth gear. And I was actually using some prototype stuff, which I'm not at liberty to say exactly what I was using. But if you did notice, what I was wearing was relatively thin layering outfit, as a two-piece thing. So I had a base layer underneath that. And I had, my Hoffman pack boots on as well. My feet, everything was warm. Okay. So, if anything that I can suggest in that type of weather, which for one, you have to be just plain out crazy or stupid. So I'm going to go for myself just of the latter. I'm just plain out stupid. And I'm going to say Rick, my cameraman, he's probably just as stupid because he followed me in. So, because we were having the lens fog up on the camera, we had ice in the camera, but, it was cold. It was cold, but good equipment. Don't sell yourself short on buying junk. I think you need, if you're going to be hunting in those extreme temperatures, and we do have them, and especially if you go to Canada or Yukon, or if you're going to hunt muskox, and that's on my to-do list, probably in the real near future, as soon as whether it's Greenland or way up north, it's going to happen here real soon within the next year or so. But you need to have that. You need to have that gear, and I think when things come out this fall, I think you should check out Huntworth give them a little shout out because their technology on what's what's coming out with their clothing line, I think it's art.
Yeah. And I always tell people, I understand that if you can't, if you're new to hunting or you're just not getting into it, and you look at clothing, or you look at boots, or you look at packs, and you just think like, man, this is a huge investment.
Yeah.
Start small. Start
100%.
with, 1 year, start with high quality, good clothing. Next year, get yourself a good pair of boots. Next year, get yourself a good pack. Next year, invest in some good optics, and so on and so forth. It was a long time. Like that's how I started my first out west hunt. Like I realized very quickly, I need better boots. I need a pack. I need better optics, and so, I started upgrading things year by year, and I like the first year. It was optics. I reached out to S&S Archery there in Idaho, and I was like, I need good optics. Like, what are the best optics I can get? And they pointed me in Koa Optics direction, and I've been Koa Optics ever since. But that was my first year. And then the second year, I really did a lot of research on packs and what's going to fit me the best and what's the most comfortable. And then the next year it was boots, and I just started small. And because it can be a big investment. I understand that. So year by year, if you just take time and say this year I'm getting really quality, a tent and some trekking poles. Great. Then next year you can look at boots and binoculars, or so on and so forth. And so I always just tell people, I understand that you can't buy the best of everything right off the bat, but work yourself up. 1 year it might be a bow, the next year it might be a new rifle, the next year it might be whatever, and then all of a sudden you're looking and you've got great equipment across the board. So
100%.
Yeah, great tip.
Well, yeah, and I think in today's world we all live in the expedited situations. I think that everybody wants it now, and I think what people forget, and because they see social media, I mean, we'll do it. Everybody that knows me knows I hate social media, and I'll say it out loud. I hate it with a passion.
Me too now.
I've almost been to your situation, because I don't have a filter. If it's a broadhead, it needs to be red, not silver. So or shiny. So it's the Rome wasn't built in a day. So it's like people need to understand that. It's like you don't get everything overnight. And nothing happens overnight too. And I think, where folks really get misguided on that is they see like, well, this guy has it, I need it. Well, not necessarily. You don't always need that $2,000 equipment to do what that $400 equipment is going to do. And I think that's what Bear has made that loud and clear. Ever since 1933, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So great tip, man. I'm a huge proponent of upgrading your gear, but it doesn't all have to be at once, and it doesn't have to be like you said, what you see on social media. You don't have to go with one brand or the other. Somebody asked me, "Hey, why is this brand? Why is it $600 for a jacket?" And I'm like, because it has the name on it. Like, that's the only reason. And and they were like, so I shouldn't go that route? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Because, we get tricked into that.
Oh, sure.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, have you personally shot the Bear Alaskan, the new Bear Alaskan?
I have not. No, I have not.
I shot it at ATA. I shot at ATA, and I was like, holy crap, dude. I think it shoots better than my Refined. I really do. I thought it was smoother, quieter. It was a joy to shoot, and it's one of those deals where I'm like, how much was this bow again? Like, how are you selling this bow for that much? And I just tell people, I'm like, listen, you don't have to be tricked into spending. The Refine's $1,000, but you don't have to be tricked into even spending $1,000, much less some of the other bows, $1,400, $1,500, $1,600. Dude, that Bear Alaskan is phenomenal. And I think it's $599. I think. Yeah. I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. But I did a video, and I'm like, this is the bow that Chuck Adams is shooting, and now I know why.
Right.
Because it is a phenomenal bow. So don't trick yourself into thinking that you have to have the pack of broadheads that cost $70 for 3 of them, or the arrows that are $250 a dozen, or the jackets that are $600 a piece. Like, don't trick yourself into thinking that.
100%. Well, Bear has something for everyone at all price points, And I mean,
they absolutely do.
The wife has the legit, and I think that bow will do anything any bow that's on the market right now will do, and probably then some. She also has the Escalate, which I think I was going to go with the Alaskan for her versus the Escalate, and I ended up going with the Escalate just because of the handle. So more of a focus type deal on that deal. And that was the only reason why we chose the Escalate, which both of them are still, I think there's only $75 difference or something like that. Is not much in the cam. So, but the roll of smoothness, the EKO on the legit or versus the legit, I mean, they're super smooth,
Yeah. No, my wife is shooting the legit as well. And I told her, I'm like, babe, this bow, like, if next time I go on a traveling hunt, wherever it might be, that'll be the bow that I crank out to 28 inches and 70 pounds and sight it in for myself and take as a backup, because I would be fully confident in shooting that bow at any animal that I was to shoot at, because it's a phenomenal shooting bow, especially for the price and for the fact that anybody can shoot it.
Oh, 100%, 100%, and that's there's just something to be said for the price points for everyone, and I don't think there's a lot of companies that offer that.
Yeah. Well, before we go, let me give one more thank you to our friends over at Selway Archery. I know that Shane, you're running the Grayling quiver, aren't you?
I am running the Grayling. Mm-hmm.
Awesome quiver. Beautifully Fred Bear branded. They did the old school green to look like the old school quivers. But I'm a huge fan of Selway across the board. I just got my custom Razorback quiver for my Kodiak Hunter, and they just make phenomenal quivers that are long lasting. Look at it as a $120 investment for a quiver that'll last you for a lifetime. That and now the Grayling quiver is just phenomenal, and it looks great on. I said I wasn't a huge fan of the. I was a huge fan of the Mag Riser, but I'm a bigger fan of the Kodiak Hunter, and that Grayling quiver looks fantastic on the Mag Riser. So guys, go check out Selway Archery for all of your traditional quiver needs, whether it be longbow, recurve, self bow, whatever it is. They make the best quivers, in my opinion, for all traditional archery. Shane, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate your time. Huge congratulations from me on an incredible hunt, on an incredible animal, well deserved and well earned, from what I hear.
It was worth every bit of it, that's for sure, man. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, guys, thanks for listening. Go check out Shane Mowery on social media at Bone Maniacs. Go find me on social media now at Typical Sportsman. And thanks for listening. You guys have a great week.
Actually, flip over and follow Dylan at Typical Sportsman there besides me, because I don't want to deal with social media.
Yeah, he hates social media. Don't follow him. Go check out Shane on social and your website. Is it just bonemaniac.com?
Yeah, bonemaniacs.com, yeah.
Go check him out, guys. Stay tuned for his short films coming out, because I'm incredibly excited to watch them. But guys, thanks for listening. You guys have a great week.
Thanks, guys.